difficult when you're close, isn't it? So we've talked a lot in the business sense about building relationships and having that commonality and that conversations and listening really hard. And there's lots of those you can kind of move into the conversations when you're kind of talking to your partner, I think, when you're kind of looking at it. But when you get really close to people, at times it can be more difficult to have conversations, can't it? And it can be patterns build up, behaviors build up that kind of really make you stop and think at times, think, well, how can I do this differently? Or I can't really see the solution. So in some ways it can be more difficult. In some ways it can be easier. So I think the things that go through my head when I'm thinking about it is be kind, be patient, don't take things personally. And I think when you're facing into a conflict situation, from whichever side it's been created, it's kind of, you've got choices. And if you've got the choice of fight, flight, or freeze, I'd always say freeze is the best choice of the three, because freeze gives you that time to think, that time to use the right part of your brain that will kind of be logical, supportive, and helpful. Where the other two options are just kind of an instant loss for me. It's kind of, you, not that it's about winning or losing, but I mean losing the situation, not winning or losing the argument. That's irrelevant. And I think the other bit that kind of sticks out to me is make time to discuss it, because that's what's different from a business versus home, I think, is sometimes you will make time at work to do this. You might even have like some great solutions, like the cafe solutions that people have for menopause, for instance. Well, you're not going to have that at home. So what are you doing to kind of create that space and that time for you? You know, when are the kids not around, if that's part of the element that you've got there? When are the builders not around, which, you know, both of us have had to deal with recently. So there's those things where you kind of got to look at those personal circumstances and say, right, make time to discuss it, make sure it's an important topic. And I suppose to some extent you're following some of the similar rules: private space, listening, being kind, and having the right intentions. And then I suppose the last one I've got in my head is about reflecting. If you have a conversation where it goes wrong, if you have a conversation where you've taken something personally, give yourself time to go and reflect and think about, how could I have handled that differently? How could I have been more supportive? How could I have listened? How could I have recognized that that's because of the circumstances, not because of how that person really feels about me or the situation at the time?
That's a huge valuable point. I think you're spot on, definitely, with that last one as well. And it also made me think there in your response about, you mentioned right at the start of the episode about the Davina McCall program. And after the first one that she did, maybe a year ago now, I know so many people who attended my webinars that said they watched it and they then watched it a second time with their partner. And
Wow.
they said, right, sit next to me on the sofa. You are watching this because this is what I am going through. And she can explain it better than I can, because essentially it's really hard, like, to explain how you feel, particularly when you're in that emotionally heightened state. So Davina McCall was really, really good at vocalizing it and making women realize that they are so not alone. And really in a sort of simplistic terms that everybody can understand. So maybe if you're listening to this episode and you've not watched it yet, I would recommend watching it. You know, it is a really kind of, as you said, Steve, it's really kind of introductory, broad approach to what the menopause is. And maybe if you're female listening to this episode and you're not sure how to have these conversations with your partner, but you feel that you should, maybe you can use that program as an introductory thing as well to have that conversation. Because you're right, Steve, you know, we're always busy, aren't we? We're always juggling stuff and work and kids, and in our case, builders at the minute. And there's just never the right time. It's always, when you think about it, it's about bedtime, and then we're too tired. It's not the right time to have that conversation. But I know that when you do have it, I think most people would say that they feel the benefit of it. They've like checked in with each other. They're like, how are you? No, really, how are you feeling? You know, and certainly from a female point of view, it helps a lot. I feel like I've shared it. I feel my shoulders are not so heavy. And from partner point of view, they feel trusted. They feel that you've trusted them. You know, there's that kind of respect. And you're kind of sort of together, because remember, it's just a chapter. It's a stage of life. It's not going on forever. So it's how can you get through it together, because divorce rates are higher at that stage for people, for women who are menopausal. It is around that stage of life because there's so many things going on, there's so many plates that are spinning. So take the time, have that conversation, maybe make it a monthly date night or something. Do something you enjoy, something that's fun. Go out for dinner, go to the cinema, whatever it is. Just check in with each other.